Where you go? Let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome to our sport court discussing TopShot, the gateway. How this topic is exciting for me because we've really seen non-crypto folks, non-blockchain folks get super, super excited about TopShot, about basketball. Got a great panel to discuss it. Here with me is Michael Levy, Ridhima Kahn, Peter Jennings, Justin Herzig. So let's get into it. First off, how did TopShot get so widely popular? And let's start with some basic terms. Ridhima, what is TopShot and how did it burst on the scene?
Yeah, so we initially started working on TopShot back in 2018 with the NBA, and the goal was really to get billions of people on the blockchain. And the way we thought we could do that was through fandom. So when you think about TopShot, essentially you can go into a queue, purchase a pack, and you don't know what's going to be in that pack, and then you collect a number of cards, and then you have a marketplace where if you, for example, missed out on a certain moment that you wanted to purchase, and they're all video moments, by the way. So if you missed out on a moment that you wanted to purchase, you can go buy it in the marketplace. We also have collector scores and a number of other mechanisms that sort of gamify the collecting experience.
Peter, what's your theory on how and why this took off the way it did?
Yeah, I mean, TopShot is how I personally got into NFTs, and I know that there's a lot of like-minded people that got into NFTs through TopShot as well. And for me, it was a perfect intersection of sports, speculating, and crypto. And being an avid NBA fan and really into crypto, and coming out the football season when I first found it, it was just like an aha moment. And my business partner and co-founder, Jonathan Bales, wrote an article about why TopShot made so much sense. And I think we had a convergence of the crypto community, the DFS betting community, and like the art community all kind of collide, which made TopShot so cool.
And Michael, what was your first gateway into this?
Yeah, so this is a perfect panel, and I think Ridhima and Peter said it exactly right. TopShot was my first experience with NFTs, my first extensive experience with blockchain, and I think a big part of the reason is how easy Dapper and Flow made it to participate in this new cutting-edge technology, between easy payments, between easy access. You almost don't know you're dealing with blockchain and NFTs, but you get all the benefits of what comes along with this technology, which I'm sure we'll touch on throughout the panel, so I won't go too deep right now. But for me, it was my first experience with NFTs, and since then, NFTs have become a significant part of my life, and spent the last 18 months getting very, very deep into this space, so TopShot really was a gateway for me.
And Justin, what else do you think explains how TopShot went from being something no one had heard of to NBA players getting super excited about this and it being like on mainstream platforms?
Yeah, I've spent the last 8 years in blockchain technology. I was working more in the enterprise side, and the number one challenge we always had was how do you create a seamless adoption experience, that onboarding ramp? And that's what Dapper Labs absolutely nailed. The experience to be able to, you see your friend, you see these moments, you see these highlights, for you to own one could be done in 3, 4, 5 minutes. It was no different than signing up with a Gmail account, while every other previous blockchain experience, it involved crypto, it involved getting a MetaMask, it involved getting a wallet, it involved maybe figuring out cryptocurrencies and bridging and like all these complicated things that Dapper Labs put behind the scenes. And going forward, any of these experiences that are going to get similar levels of adoption, the blockchain, the technology needs to be behind the scenes, and the product and the user experience needs to be at the forefront. And that's what they did so well.
One thing I think is pretty cool personally is that, I mean, I'm old enough to remember getting like baseball cards, like a cardboard card, and I have it, and now it's like, all right, cool cardboard, bro, but like, what do you do with it, right? But with TopShot, there's actually a community, and there's engagement. People are doing things. So let's talk about the role of community engagement and Lucky Traders and OTM and how that's kind of feeds into the equation. Justin, talk about how OTM is kind of like powering this engagement and stickiness.
Yeah, I mean, from the first day, what we learned with TopShot was the lack of information and education is what was going to lead to a poor experience. So at Own the Moment, we decided we wanted to build an analytics platform that helped educate the user, made them smarter investors, smarter collectors. So when they were going through and determining which moments to buy, which challenges to complete, help them along that journey. To today, I mean, 60% of active users on TopShot use Own the Moment as an analytics site to help them make those decisions. And that really continues to kind of drive us to figure out what are ways as TopShot innovates. Just today, there's a new thing called crafting that allows you to basically turn in moments to get new ones. We want to find ways to create tools to help that experience.
And Peter, Lucky Traders.
Yeah, I mean, at Lucky Trader, we're really focusing on covering everything that's happening in NFTs. I think there's a huge pain point for people where there's just so much going on that it's overwhelming. And even within TopShot, there's quite a few things going on, and we're trying to help people stay up to date there. And I think you made a really cool point on community. I mean, we do Club TopShot together, and we've become really good friends. And like every week, we get together and talk about what's going on in the NFT space and going on with TopShot. And these have now become some of my really good friends. So it really does bring people together, and that's something that you see a little bit in collectibles, but we're seeing it more with TopShot, which is really fun.
And Ridhima, how do you guys at Dapper think about community engagement? I'm guessing it's not an afterthought. I'm guessing it's not like, oh, that was a cool side effect. I'm guessing it's pretty intentional, and you have strategies around how to innovate and encourage and foster that community engagement.
Yeah, I mean, the community has been a core piece of what we've been focused on from day one. I think a lot of people these days are sort of dropping NFTs and not really necessarily thinking about the community aspect, and I think it really has to be baked into your strategy. So even early days, like Discord was really, really big for us. We were like one of the biggest presences on Discord, and we've sort of broadened that out to other social platforms as well as in real life. So I think we consider ourselves like the normie blockchain, so just being able to onboard, as we've kind of discussed today, people in a really seamless way. And so part of that is bringing people into the technology by educating them in a real life format. So we do activations at Summer League, we do community events, we take fans to games. There's a number of ways we do that in a more physical way as well.
Cool. And Michael, from Flow's perspective, what do you guys see from the community side?
So I think collecting NFTs introduces a whole new element of community versus baseball cards. You brought up baseball cards before. We're all spending way more time online now on our phones, on our computers, and the ability to share what you're collecting online with anyone in the world opens up so many doors. If you look at the sports card industry, even the general sports memorabilia industry, if you're outside of realistically the US, maybe Canada, you can't really participate in these spaces. If you also just think about what we used to do growing up, we used to carry a binder of cards around, and if you didn't have that binder of cards with you, you're not really talking about sports cards, you're not really participating in that community, whereas the fact that these things are digital, that you can share them with anyone in the world, opens up so many doors for community and for connecting with international fans and Knicks fans in China and Thailand and wherever else. And it's been fascinating to meet people from around the world. And as Ridhima said, it's also led to real-life experiences. I went to a Knicks game back in November that Dapper took us to, and I know, Peter, if you want to talk about it, you went to a Nuggets game recently.
Yeah, no, that was something I think is so cool. I mean, if you own a really nice Steph Curry traditional card and you're not going to get invited to go to a Nuggets game, and that's what happened in Denver. I got to go to a Nuggets-Warriors playoff game, met up with a bunch of other TopShot collectors, and it was so fun because we were like-minded, we were all really into TopShot, and we got to talk about just a lot of things that were going on in crypto and kind of what's being built. So that's a unique experience that I think is helping with that TopShot's bringing to the table.
There's one word that Justin brought up a moment ago that I'm going to circle back to. And it's interesting, and it's not part of the sexy side of the equation, right? It's like on the surface, you have like the incredible dunks in going to games, but you use the word analytics and data. And that's part of this that you don't see with cardboard and baseball cards. Love to hear from all of you on how analytics is, in a way, some of the secret sauce that powers this growth. Justin, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, the experience when you're actually getting to buy, own, collect those NFTs, you get this kind of euphoria, you get this fun aspect of like seeing that play. But then you also form this collection, and it almost becomes like an introduction to I don't know, like, because we say it's still collecting, but it does feel like there's this speculative aspect. And just like with the sports cards market, like the difficulty in trying to figure out what your value is for those sports cards, you have to maybe go to eBay, see what they've been selling for. Maybe you go in that magazine and see what the price is. There's no dynamic aspects to it. This is completely different. This is an ecosystem that has evolved around these moments. And so with sites like Own the Moment, what we'll do is we'll show you, okay, since this moment was released, how has its price changed over time? What about maybe that's one LeBron James? What about this moment? One of the most popular moments on the site is the LeBron James dunk right after, where he impersonated, not the right word, but celebrated Kobe's famous dunk. And so that has become like a revered moment on the site, and you can see how that stacks up against other historical moments like Vince Carter taking his final three right before COVID. And so the analytics aspects lets me as a collector see, okay, how has that changed? What are other impacts, parts of the site, the actual circulation amount? And then there's gamification within the site that the analytics come into play, which we can get more into around challenges, but it's a core element of the collector's experience.
And Ridhima, imagine at Dapper, you're looking at numbers all the time. What are some ways that analytics help you guys innovate?
Yeah, so we have a team of market economists that's really focused specifically on what's happening in the economy, what fans are doing. It helps us determine how many NFTs we should drop at a given time, how we should sort of cater our content to what we're hearing from the community, frankly. And then we make a lot of data-driven decisions sort of off of that.
And Peter, you?
I mean, analytics are everything for me, and predicting sports, which I think this is an intersection of. And at Lucky Trader, that's something that we're really focused on as well with all these NFTs and just the price movement that Justin was talking about. Actually, Michael really helped me identify probably my favorite moment in my TopShot collection, which makes sense. That same LeBron Kobe dunk, he said, hey, this number 8 is sitting out there. And that was a really cool moment to me because it honors Kobe, who did that same dunk, wearing the number 8. The jersey numbers have done really well, but that number 8 was really cool. So I love the analytical side of things, and Michael really helped me on board. And I'd be curious to hear your perspective. I know you have a background in traditional finance, but how you started thinking about TopShot from an analytical perspective.
Yeah, so appreciate that. The analytics platform. So I joined TopShot in September of 2020, and there was very, very little data available for users for probably 2 or 3 months after I joined. And then at one point, one of the community members created a very rudimentary site kind of summarizing some statistics and data, and that led to a huge spike in activity because I think people had far more confidence in terms of making a buying decision or a selling decision with that amount of data. And it allows TopShot and Dapper to leverage blockchain technology to give you full information and full transparency on transaction history. And I know I've been to a few physical card shows, and it's a great time, but every time I'm buying a card, I'm like, I don't know if I can get this card cheaper in Oregon, in New York, if I fly down to Texas and go to a card show here. You just don't have the confidence to know this is a reasonable deal based on comparable moments, based on precedent transactions, and sites like OTM and Lucky Trader do a great job of sharing that information, and it just gives you confidence as a buyer that you're not getting fooled into a decision. You have all this information you wouldn't have otherwise, and I think that confidence is really important for a market.
Yeah, I mean, so Peter and I, we both come from the daily fantasy sports sites, and analytics is paramount. It's essential to being able to be competitive. And so when we joined this space, like, analytics was the inspiration for why we built Own the Moment. Because as Mike said, in November 2020, there wasn't much out there. January is the first time we learned about it, and that's the first thing we said, hey, we come from the daily fantasy sports where there's content, there's tools, there's analytics to help you out. That was lacking. That's what really drove us to build Own the Moment and continues to thrive.
Love it, love it. I think one underrated and often overlooked element in all of this is a crucial choice Dapper made early on in choosing a platform, in choosing Flow. And talk a bit about, Ridhima, let's start with you, of how the platform matters and how Flow has really helped power this surge.
Yeah, so we initially were building CryptoKitties, our first product, on Ethereum, and we realized as we were building out TopShot that Ethereum wasn't really ideal for our use cases. We wanted to create consumer applications that didn't require any knowledge of blockchain or crypto, to participate. We wanted to have a more sustainable solution. And so we decided to build our blockchain flow for really those reasons, to just create a more efficient solution and the best sort of fan experience. So we like to say that we focus on fun and games and bringing joy to people, and we thought that creating flow would help us do that. So we've built subsequent products like NFL All Day, La Liga, a number of our products on Flow, and we now have over 7,000 developers building on Flow. And it's also, Deloitte did a study, and of the L1s and L2s they looked at, it's the most sustainable blockchain as well from a gigawatt hour consumption perspective. So.
And Michael, your thoughts on Flow's role in all of this?
Yeah, so I think Ridhima hit on a few of the points I was going to touch on myself. One of them, Ridhima touched on at the end, is the environmentally friendly approach of Flow. And if you look through mainstream media and talk to an average person on the street, one of their biggest concerns about crypto and blockchain is the environmental impact, the energy usage of it. And Flow from day one has had a negligible impact on the environment. If you look at the transaction throughput and how that compares to just sending a tweet, for example, it's essentially comparable. And I think that was a really important aspect of Flow, and it will continue to be an important aspect of Flow as they move forward. I think the ease of use is also really important, and that's Dapper together with Flow. But I remember back to when Peter and I first met back in January 2021, and we had probably a 2-hour phone call with one of the smartest guys in the crypto space, a friend of ours named Andy, explaining what the hell is going on in the Ethereum ecosystem, how to use these different tools, how to track your portfolio, how to, what exchanges are out there. And it was really, really complicated. And we had one of the best people in the world teaching it to us for 2 hours. And you just don't need that level of education to participate on Flow. And there's no real learning curve. You just go in. And I think that accessibility is really, really important and definitely played a big role.
So going back to our cardboard comp and compare and contrast, something that we touched upon earlier is gamification, utility, financialization, right? There are things we can do with this stuff. Let's talk about gamification first. Justin, what's the role of games and continued uses and new innovations? How are we seeing that kind of add fuel to the fire?
Yeah, a lot of this around the technology is, again, we don't want to build on blockchain technology just because it's a buzzword. We do it because of what it enables. And what we've seen with this platform, that the gamification aspect is because it's all on-chain, because you have that ecosystem, you can build out these games both within the Dapper Labs, what TopShot's done around some challenges aspect, but also, and we're officially announcing this today, but we're going to be releasing a fantasy football game for NFL All Day. So NFL, woo! So with NFL All Day, which is Dapper Labs' NFL product, they have moments of players as well. And so what we're able to do, because it is all on-chain, it's open, we can read the blockchain to see who owns what moment and allow people to play fantasy football games throughout the season. So we'll be giving away over $100,000 in prizes, and people can play with their moments. And what this does is it adds an extra value to that collecting experience where I'm already interested in NFL All Day. I collect those moments. Now I'm able to go play for free fantasy football games with those moments and continue that journey.
Dude, that sounds so wildly addicting. I played fantasy football for an embarrassing amount of decades, not years. And also into crypto. So the idea of merging these two things, oh God, I see where 22 hours of my life are going each day. So yeah, it's wild. Peter, what are you seeing from the utility and financialization perspective?
Well, yeah, I want to just touch on the fantasy element. I think it's really cool. And one thing that Justin and I have in common, we love to play this best ball format for fantasy football where you draft and you're done. It takes basically the best score for every position that you have each week. You don't have to manage your waivers or do anything. And Justin and I were talking last night about a product coming out where you'd have 20 moments and then you'd pick your 12 moments for the year and you'd be done. And I think that's a really, really cool user experience. One thing that I think is really important that drew me to TopShot right away and the difference with the cardboard is a highlight is so much cooler than a picture. How many amazing moments do we have in the NBA? How many amazing moments do we have in the NFL, like the Odell Beckham catch? So to me, that's something that differentiates the product that's really interesting. And again, yeah, the utility stuff, I'm clamoring for more engagement with the NBA itself. I'd love to see like NBA League Pass be tied to moments. Obviously, the real life experiences are really cool. I think there's really unique opportunities to maybe collect moments while you're at the games. So I'm excited to see what the future looks like at Dapper, and it's definitely a much different experience than traditional cards.
And Ridhima, how do you guys think about utility? And can you maybe tease us with some things that we might see in the future or glimpses of additional iterations and incarnations down the road?
Yeah, so we think about utility every day. This is, we built our products not to last for a year or for a moment, but really for like decades to come. And so, if you look at it that way, we're really in such early innings. Right now, you can collect and buy moments, you can go to games, you can participate in challenges, but certainly, more in arena stuff. There's a number of things that we're working on in the pipeline that will continue to build on itself. So I think the product, as you see it now, will actually evolve in some really exciting ways over the next few years.
All right, figured you probably wouldn't be breaking massive news, but had to try. Michael, talk about gamification and from what you're seeing on your end of that.
Do you mind if I shift to financialization in line with my company?
Do it.
Okay, great. So as Peter mentioned before, I have a financial background. I came from investment banking, private equity world. And when I first entered the NFT space, one of the things that was really lacking was kind of a financial infrastructure around NFTs. And if you think about traditional asset classes, real estate, cars, collectibles, art, anything like that, there are entire ecosystems built around them that allow people and owners and investors to approach it in a different way. If you want to maintain ownership of something but access liquidity, there are ways to do that by borrowing against your asset. If you want to rent out your house on a temporary basis, you can use Airbnb to do that. If you want to do anything, if you want to fractionalize ownership of something, there are ways to do that these days. And around NFTs, that infrastructure didn't really exist in great depth. And so I got together with a few friends from early TopShot days, and we built a company called Flowty that leverages smart contract technology to allow you to borrow and rent NFTs from other people in the community. But part of the beauty of it is with the technology on blockchain, you don't need to know who is on the other side of the transaction. So you no longer need to be kind of plugged into a legitimate financial system, or you don't need to be part of the in crowd, or you don't need to have an in at a bank, for example, and show your job history and your bank statements to get a loan. All you need is an asset that has value, and you can get a loan from anyone in the world. And so leveraging the blockchain technology gives that kind of next level advantage to NFTs as an asset. And as NFTs are more accepted as a traditional asset class in the world, the financialization will continue to build out until it mirrors every other asset class we have already.
Love it. So let me switch gears now on the other side. And so we're not all guilty of being completely rose-colored glasses and drinking all the Kool-Aid. Like, there are realities, there are challenges. The full world has not yet embraced this stuff. What are some of the friction, pain points, and real-world challenges we all have before this gets even further adoption, before it gets even more mainstream? Justin, you brought up a really good one before we started talking backstage. Start with you.
Yeah, I think, right now, a lot of the people that are into TopShot, the ecosystem, Web3, we do say it is the gateway because they started with TopShot. But then after TopShot, they went into probably the other NFTs or maybe DeFi. And they saw last year the opportunity to really make speculative major profits. And that makes, it's always them being compared to TopShot. And so TopShot, maybe, the initial goal wasn't to be this, wasn't a play to make a living off of collecting cards or to turn these investments into 10x, 100x. But instead, it's that collector's experience. And you hope over time they will maybe increase in value, mirror the physical card market. But when you do have these other comparisons around apes or CryptoPunks or different other NFT activity, I think that is one of the core challenges. But I think as long as it's more of a, build, it's more of a focus in the future, and Dapper Labs are doing the right things to kind of not only appeal and appeal to the people who are here now, but also attract that next 10, 100 million, billion people who aren't currently introduced to Web3.
Ridhima, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges and pain points? And I'm also curious of to what extent does the prices matter on secondary markets? There have been recent stories about, they were selling for this, now selling for this. Does that mean we're in doomsday mode, or is that not that relevant? How do you put that in context?
Yeah, Yeah, so I think to your first question, what we're doing is really taking fandom from different communities and bringing that on the blockchain. So you'll see that in the format of new sports that are added. We have a couple exciting ones in the pipeline, as well as deepening the existing experiences that we have alongside in parallel, and then even focusing more on creators and sort of other forms of IP that, you know, appeals to different audiences. So really ensuring that we're getting diverse audiences on the blockchain and then deepening the experiences that already exist. As far as secondary, you know, I think like any asset, there's some sort of volatility that comes along with it, but we really think much more long term. And so when you think about it that way, we really want to incentivize people to purchase and own these moments really for themselves and for their collection and to be part of a community. And then I think as, you know, we make withdrawing and so forth fairly easy as well.
One thing that I think Dapper Labs and TopShot did so well is they made the experience really easy for the average person to come into. My dad is a perfect example. My dad understood TopShot right away, actually bought some moments. He's a huge University of Virginia fan, so he's super excited to buy DeAndre Hunter moments. And I tried to show him DeFi as well because he's really into finance and trading, and he was super overwhelmed. And I think that's one thing for all the builders out there and everyone who's interested in Web3 and crypto. If you can build products that don't necessarily feel crypto native, you're going to have a much easier opportunity to onboard people. And I think that's one thing collectively we need to do as an industry is make products more user-friendly and easier to use.
Michael, what do you see as the biggest risk out there for future adoption?
For future of NFTs or TopShot specifically?
Both. Or TopShot in this overall game we're talking about.
Yeah, I think just NFTs are a really, really new asset class, which has led to a ton of volatility. We've seen some things go all the way up to 6 figures in USD value and back down to 0. We've seen the TopShot market go up 100x in a 2-month period, only to fall down 60% from there. And dealing with volatility is stressful, it's difficult, and for those who are outside the financial sector, it's very unfamiliar. And so I think as NFTs mature and markets stabilize and we see increases and decreases more in line with the stock market rather than a 10 or 20% increase or decrease over a 1-week period or even more than that, I think that will reduce one of the big hurdles that people see right now. In terms of risks, I think one of the other hurdles that I've experienced when talking to friends about TopShot and NFTs is they don't like the absence of a physical object. And that's a really, really hard thing to get across to people. And for me, it wasn't particularly difficult. When you think about a sports card, at the end of the day, if you break it down to its components, it's a piece of cardboard that has an image on it. It's something you can replicate by going on Google Images, but what makes it different is that it's officially licensed, it's endorsed by a league, it's recognized as a scarce object, and all of those things can carry through to digital objects, but it takes people a long time to get comfortable with that idea, and people have spent a long time not owning digital objects, that everything online is kind of free and universal, and this is a very different ballgame. So getting people across that line is really, really difficult.
I think that's a great point, and I think education is really at the center of what's going to take this to sort of the next billion users. And one thing that we did was at Summer League, we actually physically had a place that we meet our fans where they are. So we had a physical place that you could go sort of get educated, sign up for a TopShot account, and we've seen really great retention numbers from doing things like that. So I think that's great.
All right, the last minute we have, let's do lightning style. I want a prediction from each of you. Not for like next month, but just in the undefined longer term future. What's something we could see in the future that we don't see right now that could be really effing cool? Peter, go.
I'm hoping that we see stuff actually at the games. I want to see a highlight at a game, and if you're at the game, you have an opportunity to get that specific moment, and maybe there's like a lottery type system for people at the game for the rare moments there.
Love it. I'm there. Ridhima.
I think I know too much to answer this question appropriately, so I'll bump it to the next one.
So what I'd love to see is sort of what's called a clubhouse feature on TopShot, where when you go to someone's profile, they can kind of curate the experience you have. They might pick their 4 favorite moments and put them on the wall. They might have Knicks colors in the background. You might have a binder on a desk that someone can click, and it looks like sports cards from back in the day. So I think Dapper's going to focus a lot more on the collector experience rather than a lot of the rest of what we've been talking about through TopShot, and how you can make the moments feel more like your own and that you're collecting and like you're a kid again. And so I look forward to a lot of those changes.
Justin, 10 seconds, bring us home.
In 5 years, every Fortune 500 company will be issuing NFTs, but we won't think of them as NFTs. They're just going to be some form of digital object, and there will be ownership, but it's not going to be the way we think of it now.
Awesome. Great stuff, guys. Great panel. Thanks a lot. See you guys. Take care, everyone. Thank you.